where are those ritual practices, both communal and personal, that are in our congregations today? Are they missing? And if so, what might they be?
We do have a historical problem, which is Unitarian Universalism comes out of white liberal traditions, or is predominantly a white liberal tradition, comes out of Protestantism with its allergy to the visual, the sensual, and the ritualized, and the sacramental. So we have that historic. That's in our DNA of the dominant culture of Unitarian Universalism, is an allergy to all those things. And when we try to get over that allergy, we have all sorts of questions. We look to others besides our own heritage for answers to those questions. Then we have all the hot topic problems we have around appropriation of spirituality of others. But I'm less interested in myself, sort of beating ourselves up over the head for having abandoned ritual, to just acknowledge that that's our inheritance, is an abandonment of ritual and sacramental. But how does a tradition, because I really don't think I think those things are fundamental to justice making.
Yes.
I really don't think we can do justice making without those spiritual practices and those ritual forms. Or well, actually we can. I mean, we could, because we do. So I guess we can. I think we could do it better, and in a more sustained way. And we would have more correctives to our places where we really mess up. And so, I think we've been in this process for the last couple decades. I think almost all of us have been working on it in some ways, of how to reintroduce into a tradition that has abandoned ritual and sacrament and spiritual practice those things, or has so attenuated them that they're just little vestiges.
Teens are hungry for them, and they're full of them.
Right.
We have a cookie bake ritual once a year where the kids come and stay overnight, and they have a midnight worship and all of that. They have their little rituals, some of which I don't understand. And many of those rituals are celebrated by the congregation. People are so glad that the kids have their space and feel loved and empowered in that space. Other rituals, I would say, are actually not only unseen to others, but are dishonored. And that is the capacity for joy and the playfulness and some of the maybe overnights, which adults are so worried about, have incredible power for the teens that I work with.
I'm so attracted to this idea of having ritual ways of fortifying folks for the work we have to do. And yet, as somebody who grew up in a tradition, Lutheranism, with a pretty strong theology of original sin, baptism does feel to me, both about original sin and about drawing the boundaries of the community. So what I'm going to suggest is that we think a little bit about confirmation. At some point in the development of the Christian liturgy, a separate ritual of confirmation took on, much of that strengthening people for going out in the world function. And in the Lutheranism of my childhood, confirmation was understood as affirmation of baptism, as was reflecting their kind of coevolution. So what occurred to me today was, what if we thought about affirmation of birth? What if we had rituals, and this could certainly connect in with coming of age rituals, where we said, in the same way that Christians say at confirmation, we are building on what happened at your baptism, that we say we are building on the essential goodness that you encountered in your birth. And not only would that deal with the original sin problem, it would also deal, I think, with the boundaries problem, because everyone would know, that everybody outside these walls is also building on the gifts they received in being born.
Another ritual that needs to be strengthened and made holy, in some ways sanctified as the work of our time together, is that of reconciliation. And to have some ways, some process formalized where we come together, air our grievances, chart some ways that we could possibly think about going forward differently, and then blessing us in that act. And I would like to see that strengthened.
Really, how do we do it well? So that what's happening ritually is not just is not dorky or shallow, or really misses the mark of the power of ritual.
It's important to ground ourselves in the idea of ritual as something that grows out of a need.
Right.
So that if we have a community where it's safe to be whatever you are, that within the covenanted community, rituals, I believe, will naturally arise according to the need. I'm thinking of the church in Evanston, where they had a service of mourning around motherhood. And it was for women who had gone through abortion or the adoption of their child or stillbirth and whatever. And it grew out of a pastoral need from the minister who was aware of women needing a safe place to hold these stories and inviting them to help create a ritual. And it's moved on and become a regular thing there.
As we develop practices in our congregational settings that really are life-giving, that other people will learn from them, and by contagion, by communication of our creativity, things will spread. So that means every congregation is a point of transformation of our movement through its vitality and imagination.
What rituals of transformation does your congregation do particularly well for youth, children, or adults? Rituals can deepen people's understandings of what it means to be connected to one another and the rest of the world. How does worship in your congregation help to create a people so bold?